there's a shadow side to oneness. With the moon in Aquarius today, what was coming in really strong in my meditation, and you guys can check out my YouTube channel. I just did a podcast with a community member, friend of mine, about living in community, because we're talking about the age of Aquarius, and we're talking about unifying, coming into oneness, right? Being with humanity, living in communal spaces, living together in harmony, together as a human tribe, learning how to get along. But there's a dark side to it. Just giving you a little background, I first came into Unity Consciousness really profoundly back in 2018 when I took a 5-MeO DMT journey in this holistic wellness center that I was working at the time. This practitioner came and was working with this molecule, and I actually had listened to a Joe Rogan podcast about him talking about using DMT and how he was able to get into these states of consciousness where he realized that, you know, we were all part of this one field of energy, of unity, of light. And so I was going through a dark night of the soul. I was going through an impasse. I felt like I had been doing all my spiritual practices, but I just couldn't connect to that God force energy, that oneness that people had talked about, that I was hearing being expressed through spiritual masters and through certain spiritual texts about this unified field, this energy, this God force energy. I just couldn't connect to it. So when I heard about the podcast, I thought, that's how I'm going to do it. I need to break the membrane. I need to break this field, this block that I have about fully connecting my heart, my feeling space. In my head, I knew it must exist because there were so many people talking about it, but I wanted to connect to it in my emotional body. So what ended up happening is I did the 5-MeO DMT journey, and lo and behold, I was able to tap into that field of oneness. It felt like I went through this dark portal. I went through this squared spiral. I went into it like the deep void, and then I popped out the other side and just all light. And I realized in this space that I was everything, that there was nothing outside of me that I wasn't connected to. I remember in that journey too, I was really just so appreciative of my body, because when you're just pure light and pure energy, you need something to house it or to contain it, which is very much Saturn and Pisces right now, right? So I was realizing that this body was the container, and I was so appreciative in that moment of my body. And I just wanted to take better care of it, because I realized, my gosh, that's what's housing the energy. That's how I get to be actually touching things and experiencing things, is through this vessel. So it was an incredible journey into oneness, into unification, into this field of consciousness that really just, it expanded me in ways that I would have never have guessed possible outside of this journey. But for every light, there's a shadow. And so what comes up must come down in equal measure. That's what I'm learning in polarity. And no one prepared me, not even the practitioner who facilitated this journey for me, prepared me for the deep collapse and depression I would go into after having excelled and reached these high states of consciousness, right? It's like what goes up must come down. And then I was plummeted into this darkened void space. I call it now, how I see it, as the soil. So I reached the top of the branches, right, of the trees, and was able to see in such clarity everything. So much so that I remember seeing the image of the laughing Buddha laughing. I saw just the image pass by. It's like, ha, 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 the big joke is you're everything. And then I saw Van Gogh's Starry Night, that image come into my head about how everything's currents, and even wind and water, they all travel through these, it looks like currents, right? Currency, the currents of energy. So that was what I was able to experience. But then the aftermath was I had to go, I hit the top of the branches, right? And saw all this unity and this oneness. But then I had to go down the tree stump and into the soil to go into nothingness, to go, oh my gosh, well, then why am I here in this realm? If I'm connected to everything, why did I choose this reality? Why, looking around me at death and destruction and disease and heartache and just, humanity at its lowest point, I thought, why? What's the purpose? What's the point? Nobody was there to hold space for the dark parts of consciousness, of getting into that unity field. And it was pretty dark. So as we're exploring the moon in Aquarius today, what was coming in really strong is the moon is our emotional nature, and Aquarius is about, electricity. It's about the future. It's also a very detached sign. It can detach away from emotions and just sort of witness energy rather than getting emotionally attached to it, because it's an air sign. So it's very much about the mind. So it's about analyzing and looking at things from a very analytical viewpoint. And so as I was exploring and recalling my journey with this 5-MeO DMT experience, I was realizing, man, there is a dark side to oneness. And that's, with Aquarius, it's about the hive mind, right? It's about getting into, other states with humans, right? Of us all collectively together, being in this field together as humanity. But then the dark side of that is, man, there could be like a hive mind, almost like one of the astrologers I follow, his name is Rick Merlin Levine, and he did this podcast talking about, it's like the Borg. If anybody's ever seen Star Trek, it's this insect race that, we are Borg, that they were all this one sort of insect race that didn't have any individuated thoughts at all. They were all collective, one thought, one hive mind energy. And so today, as I'm navigating these currents, and we're going to the last stages of Mercury in Pisces, and it's getting ready to go Mercury into Aries, it's going to be going retrograde and then station for about 3 months. So there's going to be a lot of Aries thoughts, new beginnings. As we're wrapping up this consciousness of Mercury in Pisces, there's this realization. It's like the most concentrated part of this transit of Mercury in Pisces is, yes, we are all one. Yes, we are connected. Yes, we are part of this quantum field of energy where it's like a spider web or strings that we're all interwoven like a mycelium network of connectivity. But in that connectivity, sometimes we can get lost in the tribal think or the hive mind mentality and lose our sense of individuality. So this is where that's why we need the polarity points of Leo, which is the opposite of Aquarius. We need to know that we are still individuated. We are still this individuated body vessel having a human experience in a collective energy where, yes, we are one. So this is a very interesting dynamic and a polarity and a way of navigating. I wanted to bring you into awareness that those of you that are really deep diving into these states of consciousness and getting into this oneness field, and again, lives and practices radical oneness, right? I call myself a radical oneness practitioner / counseling astrologer, because I realize that we need to hold space for each other, that yes, we're in this dual plane of existence, that yes, we are connected to everything and everyone, but we are still our own individuated selves. And just like that tree root was showing me, in order to travel high into the realms where the branches are, your root system has to be deep into the earth, grounded into this plane of existence, into your body, and the body is the earth. So as we're navigating these new states of awareness, detach yourself from the over emotionality and maybe other people's thoughts forms or other people's emotional body, because Pisces, it's a very empathetic and it's a very psychic sign. So this is the time to delineate and differentiate what is yours, what is the other's. Even though all is one, there's still different frequencies being had, different parts of the fractal that we're navigating from that's very unique and individuated to you. So these are just thoughts that were coming in as I'm, transported through the moon in Aquarius, becoming very detached to my emotional nature and just sort of being in the observer, and then reflecting on the past of what transpired as I'm navigating oneness. And if you might be too, this is something to contemplate as we are all traversing these planes together. So like, subscribe, check out my channel, check out the podcast today about living in community for those that are wanting to live in community, and there's a whole experience there. So anyway, I hope this connects to you guys. Thank you for watching. Love you, fam.